All right, let's jump right into another deep dive. Tonight, we're going to break down all the action from the NBA on January 14th, 2025. You sent over a whole stack of game summaries, and we're ready to go beyond just like the scores. You know what I mean? Like, let's get to the stories and the trends behind those numbers.
Yeah, sounds good.
We're talking Clippers, Heat, Spurs, Lakers, Rockets, Grizzlies.
Back night.
Yeah, just a ton of games and some real shockers in there.
Yeah, a lot of upsets and things that I don't think anybody predicted.
I think that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah, why don't we start with that Clippers win over the Heat, 109-98.
All right.
Kawhi Leonard, I mean, he always shows up big in these games.
Right.
28 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. But I was really impressed by his playmaking.
Oh yeah.
Those 4 assists really seem to be key to like breaking down the Heat's defense.
Yeah, I agree.
Paul George also had a solid night, 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Pretty standard for him.
Yeah, pretty much what you expect out of Paul George these days.
But what really impressed me about the Clippers was their depth.
Oh yeah, their bench was phenomenal in that game.
Norman Powell off the bench with 15 points. Robert Covington chipped in 10 points and 7 rebounds.
Yeah, and that just makes them so tough to beat, right? When you have that kind of consistent support coming off the bench, it just wears the other team down. The Heat, they just couldn't find that extra spark.
Right, like beyond Butler and Adebayo, who are, doing their usual thing.
Yeah, they needed someone else to step up, and it just didn't happen.
All right, so this is where things get kind of interesting. The Spurs just completely dominated the Lakers, 126-102. Victor Wembanyama, the rookie, just phenomenal.
30 points, 12 rebounds, 4 blocks.
I mean, he was playing like a seasoned veteran out there.
I mean, obviously the Lakers were missing some key players due to injuries.
Right.
But you can't take anything away from Wembanyama. This kid is the real deal.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just him either. Keldon Johnson had 25 points. Devin Vassell added 20.
The Spurs have got a seriously bright future with this young core.
Absolutely.
Speaking of young talent, that Rockets versus Grizzlies game, nail-biter. Down to the wire.
Oh, man, what a finish.
Jalen Green hits the game-winning shot, ice in his veins, 35 points, just an explosive performance.
I mean, this game was really a showcase for these young guards, right?
Totally.
John Morant also had a great game for the Grizzlies, 32 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds.
Yeah.
But Green just stole the show.
And let's not forget about Alperen Sengun for the Rockets.
Oh, man, Sengun, 22 points, 14 rebounds, 5 assists.
Triple-double machine in the making.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on. The Raptors managed to squeak out a close win over the Warriors, 104-101. Pascal Siakam, their go-to guy, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. But it was their defense down the stretch that really sealed the deal.
Yeah, they locked down on Curry in those final minutes.
I mean, Curry still had a good game, 31 points, those signature three-pointers.
Right, but the Raptors forced the Warriors into 16 turnovers.
Woof. You can't give a team like the Raptors that many extra possessions and expect to win.
Nope, not going to happen.
Last game of the night, and we had another upset. The Pistons over the Knicks, 124-119. Cade Cunningham, phenomenal, 29 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds. He just took control of that game.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the Pistons' offense in that game.
Yeah, like they were shooting almost 60% from the field.
That's almost unheard of in today's NBA.
Right. And it wasn't just one guy. It was a real team effort.
Absolutely. And Jaden Ivey had a breakout game as well, 24 points, showing his potential as a scorer alongside Cunningham.
It's clear that the Pistons are a team on the rise.
No doubt about it. So, we talked about some of the big storylines, but I think it'd be fun to, dig a little deeper,
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Right. What are some of those finer points that maybe aren't making headlines but really change the course of these games?
Exactly. What stood out to you?
Well, going back to that Clippers-Heat game, we talked about the Clippers' depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But their offensive efficiency was just off the charts. Like, they were shooting over 50% from the field and 40% from three-point range.
Yeah, it felt like they were just wearing down the Heat with every possession.
Right. It was like textbook execution.
And then defensively, they held Miami to under 40% shooting in the second half.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That just shows you their focus and discipline. They didn't let up even when they had a comfortable lead.
Speaking of defense, the way the Raptors shut down the Warriors in those final minutes, it was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It was like they just flipped a switch and became this impenetrable wall.
Mm-hmm.
What did they do differently in those crucial moments?
Well, the Raptors are always known for their defensive intensity, but they really just ramped it up in the clutch. They forced the Warriors into taking tough shots, contested everything. The Warriors, they thrive on that rhythm and flow.
Right.
And if you can disrupt that, you have a real chance to beat them. And that's exactly what the Raptors did.
The Spurs game, I mean, that one really surprised me. Obviously, Wembanyama was amazing, but the whole team played with so much energy and hustle.
Mhm.
It was just inspiring to watch.
You know, the Spurs, they've always been known for that well-coached system, right? Like fundamentals, teamwork, and it seems like that's carrying over to this new generation of players.
Totally.
They're buying into the system, and it's paying off.
And it's not just about defense either. They move the ball beautifully on offense, always finding the open man.
Yeah, it's almost poetic to see this young Spurs team led by this Ricky Phenom playing with that same disciplined, team-oriented basketball that defined the Spurs dynasty of, the past. It's like a new chapter, but with a familiar melody.
It gives you chills.
Right.
That Rockets-Grizzlies game, what a shootout. But I noticed something interesting. The Rockets just dominated the boards. They out-rebounded the Grizzlies by a significant margin.
I think that gets overlooked sometimes.
Yeah.
That really speaks volumes about the Rockets' commitment to effort and hustle. They were attacking the glass with a purpose, creating second-chance opportunities for themselves, limiting the Grizzlies' possessions.
And Alperen Şengün was a beast on the boards.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we talked about his scoring, his passing, but his rebounding was just as crucial.
Şengün's such a unique player.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the size and strength to battle for those rebounds.
Right.
But he also has this court vision and awareness to kickstart the offense after he grabs the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often you see that combination in such a young player.
It's like he's a point center with an extra emphasis on rebounding, a triple threat in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Last thing I wanted to mention, the Pistons. So efficient offensively against the Knicks, shooting almost 60% from the field. That's almost unheard of in today's NBA.
It is remarkable.
Yeah.
And it shows how far they've come as a team.
Totally.
They moved the ball well, made smart decisions, just knocked down their shots. And it was a true team effort.
And I loved their tenacity. They didn't back down from the Knicks even when the game got tight in the fourth quarter. Real grit, real determination.
That resilience is what separates the good teams from the great teams. The Pistons are still young,
Right.
but they're developing that mental toughness,
Yeah.
that ability to perform under pressure. And that's key for any championship contender.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Depth, defense, hustle, efficiency, resilience.
Yeah.
What's like the overarching takeaway for you? What's the common thread that ties all of these games together?
I think it's a testament to the power of team basketball.
Okay.
Yes, we saw some amazing individual performances,
Right.
but the teams that really stood out were the ones that played as a unit, relied on each other, understood the importance of every single player on the court.
Yeah.
That's what makes basketball so captivating, the way individual talent can be harnessed to create something greater than the sum of its parts.
Now, that's a powerful insight.
Yep.
Makes you think about the bigger picture of the league.
Absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, so we've gone deep on those individual games, analyze those key plays, but I think it's time to zoom out a little bit. Look at the bigger picture. What are the trends that you saw, kind of like overarching themes that stood out to you in all these games? Like what's really shaping the NBA right now?
Well, one trend is impossible to ignore. We've been talking about it this whole time. It's the rise of young talent.
Oh, yeah. It's everywhere.
Wembanyama, Green, Cunningham, Ivy. These guys, they're not just the future of the league. They're having a massive impact right now.
Yeah, they're leading their teams, changing the way the game is played.
Exactly. And they're not afraid of anything. They're fearless. They're creative. They're just hungry to prove themselves. And I think that's what makes this season so exciting.
Yeah, you can just feel their passion, the drive to win. It's contagious.
It really is.
What other trends are you seeing?
I think another one is the increasing emphasis on versatility. Teams aren't looking for one-dimensional players anymore. They want guys who can do it all. Score, defend, rebound, pass. Like think about Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Pascal Siakam. They're the prototypes for the modern NBA player.
Yeah, it's like the game is evolving before our very eyes.
Right.
Specialists are becoming a thing of the past. Teams need players who can adapt to any situation, any matchup.
Exactly, because the game is so fast now. Offenses are more complex. Defenses are more sophisticated than ever before. You got to be able to keep up.
So we've got young talent, versatile players. Anything else shaping the league right now?
I think we're also seeing this resurgence of team basketball.
Yeah.
We touched on it earlier, but it's worth emphasizing. The teams that are having the most success, they're the ones that are playing unselfishly. They're sharing the ball. They're trusting each other.
It's that classic saying, there's no I in team.
Yeah, but seriously, though, it's so refreshing to see teams that just click like that. They're working as a cohesive unit. They're not just a collection of individuals.
So taking all of this into account, like, what does this mean for the rest of the season? What are the big questions we should be asking right now?
Well, the biggest question, the one we've been kind of dancing around this whole time, is who's going to emerge from this youth movement as the next dynasty? Is it going to be Wembanyama and the Spurs, Green and the Rockets, Cunningham, Ivy with the Pistons, or maybe a team we haven't even considered yet?
That's the million-dollar question right there.
It is.
I'm also curious to see how these young stars develop over the course of the season. Like, how do they handle the pressure? How do they adapt to those challenges of an 82-game season, the playoffs?
Yeah, and how do the veteran teams, those established powers, how do they respond to this new wave of talent? Do they adapt? Do they evolve? Or do they get left behind?
And we can't forget about coaching, team culture. I mean, we saw how well that Spurs system is working.
Absolutely.
What other teams have that right environment to nurture and develop their young talent? There's just so much to think about.
Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. Thanks for joining me for another deep dive.
Hey, that's been fun.
And to all of you listening, keep watching those games. Pay attention to those details and see if you can predict who's going to emerge as that next NBA dynasty.